Hi everybody, how are you? It's Marge. It's the 23rd, it's Wednesday, and I kind of stumbled across this book recently that seems to really be talking about a lot of things that we're seeing uh, in the social world and also with the recent eclipse. And the book is The Black Sun by Stanton Marlan. And I got this book about 2 weeks before the eclipse, and I didn't even realize at the time how that it was going to, in imagery was going to be what we were seeing. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what this book explains and correlate it with what seems to be what we're seeing in the social world. So, it's noted that Western psychology has seen darkness primarily as a negative force, something to move through and beyond, but it actually has an intrinsic value in the human psyche. So Stanton Marlan goes into what does this mean, the black sun, which he feels actually has a certain luminosity to it at a certain point. So Professor Marlan talks about the black sun being in alchemy the stage of Negredo. It's considered the first operation and considered to be the most difficult. It's when things are decomposing and rotting and stinky and black and heavy, and you could feel depressed. And normally this is a state we want to just get through, work through, so we can get to some better place. But Professor Marlan is saying there's a lot to actually be discovered and learned from this place. And Jung said that alchemy, is very difficult, and here we're quoting from Jung speaking in this book. Alchemy is difficult and strewn with obstacles. Right at the beginning, you meet the dragon, or as the alchemist called it, the blackness of the Negredo. And Stanton Marlan refers to the black sun as the Sol Niger, or Niger, Niger. This experience produces suffering. The soul finds itself in the throes of melancholy, locked in a struggle with the shadow. And this is what the black sun is about. And Stanton Marlan points out that we prefer the light. Our language is full of metaphors of illumination, to bring to light, to make clear, to enlighten. Enlightenment. It's all about making things lighter. There have been cultures that worshipped the sun, which is often equated with the king, and traditionally masculine attributes in a patriarchal culture. There's a long tradition of the king and the reflecting of the qualities of the rational order, stability, and light. The sun and the king light up the world. So, and he references a lot of literature and a lot of art that talks about this process of the black sun. Dante, Faust, artists such as Motherwell, Max Ernst. I'm going to show you, I think, all the images at the end, because if the images, I know a lot of you like images, the images are what kind of brings it to life in a way. So, let's see. And I'm still working through this material myself, so I don't by any means feel that I'm an expert in this. I just wanted to share what I found because it seems so relevant now, and hopefully that'll be made a little clearer. Okay, so let's see. So sun's traditionally been associated with masculine attributes. Okay. But what happens when the sun energy and the male king is imbalanced? The world becomes defined as that part of reality that is organized and ordered by the king. What is outside the boundaries of his influence is non-creation chaos, the demonic, the non-world. This situation sets the stage for a massive repression and devaluation of the dark side of psychic life. And the male king, this is a patriarchal male perspective. This dualism has led to a personal, this is according to Stanton Marlan, but I agree with this, led to a personal and cultural elitism that have fueled charges of racism and colonialism. So it gets into issues of, if we value the light so much and we devalue the dark, how does that, and does that, and if so how does that affect our attitudes? Does that surface in our attitudes towards racism, of prefer, Aryanism, and we're seeing this so much in the news lately, light and dark, and how the dark has been so repressed, and we have had a culture of patriarchal white kingship. In we don't call it king, but okay, let's see. And when this process starts happening, which is can also really be equated on an individual level to the death of the ego, that the king is equated with the ego and the part of ourselves that think we're in control. And I thought this was a really cool image of the old father king drowning in the sea, reborn in his son and successors. I don't know if you can see this, but way out here in the distance is a picture of a king who's drowning. And I thought this image from the Kitty Kahane deck, this is the Hierophant, I thought this was such an interesting parallel to the king drowning, because here this king's standing up on a boat and could easily tip over, and meanwhile all this vomit and spewing is coming out of him. So, are we witnessing individually and culturally, are we witnessing the death of the king ego? Okay. And I found this article about this book by Greg Mogensen, and I found this very interesting. Echoing Stanton Marlan, saying we triumph light over darkness. We talk of sunny dispositions. For ages, men have worshipped the great God who redeems the world by rising out of darkness as a radiant light in the heaven. But he points out Mircea Eliade's observation that where history is on the march, thanks to kings, heroes, or empires, the sun is supreme. But now we tend to think of casualties of the solar metaphor's colonizing thrust, so it can sort of destroy itself. We think of cultures that have vanquished and of people that are no more. And the shadow side of all that solar king energy is the destructive, logocentric, phallocentric heliopolitics of the Western visionary tradition. And when we get into the alchemical images, the sun goes through transformation, gets devoured by a lion, gets dethroned, and the conjunctio of the Sol and Luna. So that's what we saw the other day in the eclipse. We saw the moon, the feminine, the dark, momentarily eclipsing that king sun. And let's see if there's anything else I want to pull from this article. So it's the death of the ego. The ego identity dies or is symbolically killed, along with one's former perspective of oneself and one's life. So let's get to some pictures. Okay. So, and there's life coming out of death, and there's a lot of contradictory images. Like here, the green lion devours the sun. So there's a wounding that takes place. And that wounding, that blood that spills, is an awakening to something different. So here's the images of life coming out of death. So there's all these contradictory images in the alchemical images. Here's wheat growing out of a crypt. We've got, I'll show you some of the artists that painted. Here's Robert Motherwell's painting, The Black Sun, simply titled The Black Sun. Here's Max Ernst's, this one here, The Black Sun. This is Rothko. It's untitled, but it's all black. This book is fascinating. I'm just sort of glimpsing through it, but it's really, really, really rich. So with the eclipse, yes, the darkness took over the sun. We could say that for a few moments the darkness will eclipse the light. And I thought this was a really interesting image too. This is the death card in the Tower of the Holy Light. So, again, another crypt image with the wrestling with this green dragon. So there's life. It's not all death. So, what is all this? What am I trying to say? I'm wondering if we are seeing the death of the masculine solar, which usually eclipses lunar, and how we I'm wondering if there's a balance taking place within us personally, a death of the ego as we integrate feminine, masculine, mind, heart, body, and I wonder if that is going on at a collective level, and we are seeing it in the external world in terms of some of our male figures of prominence, and also in the struggles that are going on between dark and light, that we're still seeing all these issues of racism. And I wonder if at the root of that is a fear of the dark. And I have no idea how these issues were present in the alchemists' time, like 1400s and before that. That's not my area of expertise, but I think, from what, we've had slavery and class and race issues for thousands of years. So anyway, I hope this made sense. If this is intriguing at all to you, check out The Black Sun by Stanton Marlan. And I want to thank Bonnie Bright of the Depth Psychology Alliance, because she first posted this book months ago And that's how it crossed my consciousness. So I'll put some links below to the Depth Psychology Alliance, which is a great source if you're interested in these kind of issues. And also Jung Platform is also excellent for classes on alchemy. Okay, let me know your thoughts.